I was very interested to learn that Guido Fawkes published an article to the effect that colleagues had been in touch to say that Rachel Reeves was not in fact an economist, as she'd been claiming all along when working for the Bank of England, but in fact involved in a bit more of a mundane role in some kind of computer tech analysis or administrative role, but not an economist, as it had been claimed. After I stopped being quite so interested, I became quite alarmed because as Chancellor of the Exchequer, of course, you might expect, would have some more of an experience and not embellish the CV like that. I've said many times on this channel, I am not an economist, but I do have a note from an actual economist that's written in to share his thoughts. So if anyone wants to get in touch with him afterwards, do email in and I'll put you in touch. But I'll share that with you towards the end of the video. But the reason for this video is that there's a glaring video that's jumping back from the past. It's strange how these things come back to bite you, from Rachel Reeves herself. So if you don't take my word for this, you can take her word for it. And this is about the supposed reported increase on employer national insurance contributions. It's reported by Sky News that these are going up by 2%. And I made the distinction mainly on the legal basis that there is a distinction between employer and employee national insurance contributions. But I did air my view that from an economics point of view, not that I'm an economist, I said I'm not. I said that one way or another, these are going to affect the worker, and one way or another, they will trickle down and they will affect the individual. And so, as I said, I'll share with what the actual economist that wrote into me said on the back of his MBA and 30 years experience working in finance all over the globe. But first of all, let's share once again what Rachel Reeves has said, which I've shared in my previous videos, just for the context, what she said beforehand, before being Chancellor and as the part of the Manifesto, and then what she said a few years back. Let's just have a brief recap of what she said just recently.
Would you rule out putting up income tax?
Well, I want, and Keir wants, taxes on working people to be lower. And we certainly won't be increasing income tax or national insurance if we win the election.
So that's a clear commitment. You will not increase income tax.
No, we won't increase income tax or national insurance. In fact, we oppose the increases to national insurance.
Your manifesto says we will not increase national insurance, but you're looking at increasing employers' national insurance. Aren't you breaking a manifesto pledge with that?
Well, you've read our manifesto, and in black and white it said we will not increase taxes on working people, and that was national insurance, income tax and VAT.
Not employers.
That was not in the manifesto, and we will stick to everything in our manifesto, including, for example, capping corporations.
And so all of those bits, making a distinction between employers, employees, working people, not increasing the taxes on working people, etc. First of all, before we go to this final bit, which was from 2021 from Rachel Reeves herself, let me share with you what the actual economist with an MBA in his 30 years experience working in finance all around the world shared with me by email, and said, initially, humbly, said to correct what I'm saying, which is that there is no real distinction between the employer and employee when it comes to these national insurance payments. Now, obviously, from a legal standpoint, the employer has a legal obligation to do so, but in reality, as I said in my video, I believe that it's going to affect the worker. But here's why, from an actual economist, why that's absolutely correct. Both are paid by the employee from an economic point of view, always. Consider this, the cost of an employee is X dollars or pounds or whatever equals salary plus national insurance, the employee plus the national insurance by the employer plus any benefits. In your estimation as the employer, the value created or contributed economic value of this employee to the company is the value of the employee could be Y dollars or pounds, whatever. If Y is greater than X, you'll keep the employee because he contributes more than he costs. If X is greater than Y, you'll fire the employee because he costs more than he contributes. This is pure economics for a company operating in a market economy. It says nothing about who pays what because it doesn't matter from an economic point of view. The total cost of an employee is what the company deposits in the employee's bank account plus what the company deposits in the government's bank account, no matter how X is divided between the two. Incidentally, as an aside, there may be other reasons for keeping the employee, even if X is greater than Y, save for fear of being sued, but the economics of the situation are unambiguous. The employee is costing the company money when X is greater than Y. Here's the reality. The simple fact is, all of X is paid for by the productivity of the employee. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have a job. And that's absolutely right. I completely agree with that, because obviously you wouldn't employ the employee unless they were contributing to the company. And if they were costing too much, and you wouldn't keep them employed unless, of course, as it suggests here, there's some other reason for keeping them around. But back to this video, and if you don't take my word for it or the Economist's word for it, why don't you take Rachel Reeves' word for it herself back in 2021 when she wasn't Chancellor? Take a listen to this.
One of the reasons why it is so worrying that at this crucial time, the Prime Minister and Chancellor concocted a new jobs tax to arrive in the spring. Despite all of their election promises to cut national insurance contributions, they're actually raising them against the strong advice of business and trades unions. The Conservative government's actions will make each new recruit more expensive and increase the costs to business. The decision to saddle employers and workers with the jobs tax takes money out of people's pockets when our economic recovery is not yet established or secure, and only adds to the pressure on businesses after a testing year and a half. When all other costs are going up, the costs of energy, the costs of supplies, these tax rises are only hitting them harder.
And so there it is, crystal clear, as I thought, as my viewer Economist thinks, and it would seem how Rachel Reeves herself thinks, or at least used to some years ago before actually put in this position too. And no doubt they would blame this black hole and all this sort of stuff and raise the usual excuses. But nonetheless, there it is. In her own words, this is going to hit businesses. It's going to hit them hard. And it's going to have this knock-on effect on both businesses and workers working for those businesses. And so when someone tells you that they are not going to raise taxes on working people, one has to question how they are going to be imaginative enough so that this doesn't actually affect those workers, as everyone seems to agree that it does. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time.